There's an old barn standing proudly at the edge of our old land. Weathered boards and rusty nails, still stronger than most men. Its roof has seen 1,000 storms, its doors have faced the wind, and every crack within its walls holds stories deep within. I walk there every morning like I've done for many years. Somehow that old barn still knows my laughter and my tears. It watched me as a young boy, running barefoot through the fields, climbing ladders to the hayloft, dreaming dreams too big to yield. My father taught me lessons beneath those wooden beams about hard work and honesty and believing in my dreams. The smell of hay and summer dust still lingers in the air, like yesterday never truly left, and time still lingers there. The old barn remembers every season of my life. The old barn remembers my children and my wife. Every harvest, every heartbreak, every prayer and every plan, the old barn remembers long after mortal man. It saw our wedding supper when neighbors filled the floor. Music echoed through the rafters like never heard before. Banjos played until midnight, violins sang along, and every smiling face that night believed the world was strong. Your hand fit perfectly in mine as we danced beneath the beams, and that old barn became a part of all our family dreams. Then came years of raising children, teaching them the farmer's way, watching little hands grow stronger, working through the day. The barn became their playground, their castle and their fort, holding every childhood memory life could ever support. Those years disappeared too quickly, like autumn leaves in flight, yet somehow they still live there every day and every night. The old barn remembers every season of my life. The old barn remembers my children and my wife. Every harvest, every heartbreak, every prayer and every plan, the old barn remembers long after mortal man. Just like the boards I see, both of us have faced the years and all they're meant to be. The children have their own homes, the fields aren't worked the same. Many faces that once filled this place now live only in my brain. But every sunset finds me here, listening to the breeze, and the old barn whispers stories through the rustling of the trees. Maybe that's why old places matter long after years have passed, because they carry pieces of us and help our memories last. Every nail and every timber, every worn and weathered beam keeps alive the lives we lived and all the things we've seen. The old barn remembers the love and the laughter too. The old barn remembers everything about you. And when my final harvest comes and I leave this earthly land, the old barn will keep remembering long after I am gone. The sun slips down behind the pasture, the evening settles slow, and the old barn stands in silence, guarding all the years I know. The lanterns hung from wooden beams on a warm July night. The whole town gathered at the barn beneath the moonlight bright. The fiddler tuned his violin, the banjo found its groove, and before the first song finished, everybody started to move. I was standing by the doorway, trying not to look your way, but every time I glanced around, you took my breath away. You wore a simple cotton dress, the color of the summer sky, and when you smiled across the room, I forgot how to be shy. The music filled the old barn with laughter and delight. And when I finally asked you to dance, the world suddenly felt right. The floorboards creaked beneath us as we spun around and around, and every step we took together felt like heaven touching ground. Dancing on the barn floor with the prettiest girl in town, dancing on the barn floor as the music spun around. The violin was singing, the banjo played along, and somewhere in that old barn, my heart found where it belonged. Neighbors clapped and laughed as couples crossed the floor. Some had danced for 50 years, some were just beginning more. Children chased each other between the hay and beams, while old folks sat and smiled, remembering their own dreams. Those nights weren't rich with money or fancy things to own, but they were rich with something better, a feeling called home. Summer turned to autumn, and autumn turned to spring, yet every dance we shared together made my heart still sing. Before long we were married and built a life so true, but every time I hear a fiddle, I think of dancing with you. The years may have passed quickly like rain upon the land, yet I still feel your fingers wrapped softly in my hand. dancing on the barn floor, with the prettiest girl in town dancing on the barn floor. As the music spun around, the violin was singing, the banjo played along, and somewhere in that old barn, my heart found where it belonged. Now the barn sits quieter than it did those years ago. Many of the faces have followed different roads, but sometimes when the evening falls and shadows fill the space, I can almost see us dancing and your smiling face. The old floor still remembers every step and every turn, and every board beneath my feet still carries what we learned. Life moves fast as rivers, and seasons never stay, but memories have a way of living long after yesterday. Some dances never truly end, some songs never grow old. They simply find a home inside the stories that we hold. Dancing on the barn floor still plays inside my mind, dancing on the barn floor like a treasure left behind. The violin keeps singing, the banjo keeps the time, and every time I hear them play, you're dancing by my side. The lanterns may be gone now, the crowd may disappear, but that old barn still echoes with music I can hear. And somewhere in those memories, forever shining bright, we're dancing on the barn floor beneath a summer night.
Summer came to the valley like it always seemed to do, bringing fields of golden hay and skies of endless blue. The creek ran cool behind the barn, the days felt long and free, back when the whole world seemed to fit between those hills and me. Barefoot through the pasture grass without a care in sight, living for the simple joy of another summer night. The tractors worked from sunrise till the evening shadows fell. The smell of fresh cut hay would drift across the field so well. Daddy worked beside me, teaching lessons with his hands about respecting honest labor and loving this old land. By supper we'd be dusty and tired from the heat, but somehow every meal tasted better after work was complete. Summer hay and fireflies dancing through the night. Summer hay and fireflies nights still live inside, though many years have passed me by. I still see forever in summer hay and fireflies. There was a girl from down the road with ribbons in her hair. She'd come help her family stack hay bundles everywhere. We'd steal a few small moments when the work was finally through, walking down the gravel lane beneath the evening blue. Neither one of us said much, but somehow we both knew the magic wasn't in the summer, it was being there with you. The fireflies would gather as the moon began to rise, tiny lanterns floating softly across the countryside. We'd sit beside the fence line, talking low and slow, dreaming of tomorrow and places we might go. Funny how the smallest moments stay the longest in your heart, even after decades pass and lives drift far apart. Summer hay and fireflies dancing through the night. Summer hay and fireflies like little stars in flight. Those country nights still live inside, though many years have passed me by. I still see forever in summer hay and fireflies. Now the fields are a little quieter than they were back then. Many of the old barns have surrendered to the wind. The children have grown older and have families of their own. Yet every summer evening still feels a little like home. When twilight touches the meadow and the first fireflies appear, the years seem to disappear and bring the past back near. Maybe heaven isn't distant, maybe it lives inside the memories we carry like a lantern through our lives. A hayfield at sunset, a laugh beneath the stars. The people who once loved us never truly travel far. Summer hay and fireflies still shine within my soul. Summer hay and fireflies more precious now than gold. And when my final summer comes and I say my last goodbye, I'll follow those old fireflies across the evening sky. The crickets sing their evening song, the stars begin to rise, and somewhere in the darkness I see those little lights still dancing through the hayfields like they did in younger times. Summer hay and fireflies forever in my mind.
The fields were gold beneath the sunset, the harvest nearly done. The wagon stood beside the barn after weeks beneath the sun. The air smelled sweet with fresh-cut grain, and autumn filled the breeze. Another season safely gathered from the valley and the trees. Folks came driving down the back roads from every farm around, because tonight the harvest moon would light this little town. Lanterns hung from fence posts and children ran about. Neighbors filled the old barnyard while laughter carried out. The fiddler tuned his violin, the banjo found its place, and smiles appeared on every soul gathered in that space. We'd work from dawn till darkness, through the heat and summer rain. So tonight we'd celebrate the blessings of the grain. Banjo at the harvest moon playing through the night. Banjo at the harvest moon beneath the silver light. The violin was dancing and every heart was free. Banjo at the harvest moon, that's how life should always be. You stood beside the cider stand with autumn in your eyes, the moonlight resting softly like a blessing from the skies. I walked across the crowded yard and held your hand once more, the same way I had done 1,000 times before. The years had touched our faces but never touched our hearts, and standing there together felt like another start. The children danced with grandkids upon the barnyard ground, 3 generations laughing to the same familiar sound. Old Mr. Johnson played guitar like he did when he was young, and every song reminded us of where we all came from. The harvest wasn't only grain or fields beneath the sun. The greatest harvest of all was the family we'd become. Banjo at the harvest moon playing through the night. Banjo at the harvest moon beneath the silver light. The violin was dancing and every heart was free. Banjo at the harvest moon, that's how life should always be. Now many years have drifted past like leaves upon the wind. Some faces from that evening I've not seen since then. Yet every autumn when the moon rises large and bright, I hear that old banjo again floating through the night. And every note brings back the people that I knew, the laughter and the harvest songs, and most of all, you. gives us precious moments, then carries them away. But memories become lanterns that light our future days. And every harvest moon still shines just like before, across the fields and barns we once adored. Banjo at the harvest moon still echoes in my soul. Banjo at the harvest moon, more precious now than gold. And when my final harvest comes and my working days are through, play one more song beneath the moon for me and you. The moon hangs over quiet fields, the barn stands proud and still, and somewhere in the autumn wind that old banjo plays still, carrying the sound of gratitude across the countryside. Banjo at the harvest moon, forever in my life.
There's an old red tractor sitting by the barn out in the field. Its paint is worn and faded, but it still refuses to yield. I bought it in the springtime back when I was 22, with a pocket full of dreams and a heart that belonged to you. The tires have crossed 1,000,000 rows of corn and hay and grain, and every mile it traveled helped build our family name. That tractor worked through summers and winters cold and long. It never cared for comfort, it just kept rolling strong. You'd bring lunch out to the field and wave from down the lane. I'd shut the engine off a while just to hear you speak my name. Those simple little moments were worth more than any gold, though I didn't fully know it until we both grew old. The red tractor years were the best years of my life. The red tractor years working side by side with my wife. Through every season of the harvest, through every joy and tear, we built a life together in the red tractor year.
Then came the years of children riding on that rusty seat. Their little boots were dangling, barely reaching to their feet. They'd laugh across the pasture as the fields rolled slowly by, believing Dad could fix anything beneath the summer sky. The tractor carried memories far beyond the work it knew. It carried generations and a family's dreams come true. The seasons kept on turning as the decades slipped away. The field stayed much the same, though the world outside would change. The children left for cities and built their own lives too. But every holiday they'd come back to the farm they always knew. And that old red tractor waited beside the weathered shed, like a faithful old companion through every road we tread. The red tractor years were the best years of my life. The red tractor years years working side by side with my wife. Through every season of the harvest, through every joy and tear, we built a life together in the red tractor years. Now I climb aboard much slower than I did in younger days. The fields seem a little smaller, yet somehow mean more in many ways. Sometimes I start the engine just to hear that old familiar sound, and suddenly I'm 20 again with you somewhere around. Standing by the fence line with the sunlight in your hair, the kind of memory that never fades, no matter where. People often measure success by the wealth they've come to own, but I measure mine in sunsets and the life that we had grown. A family built with love, an honest living earned, and lessons from the soil that every season learned. The red tractor years still live inside my soul. The red tractor years, more precious now than gold. And when my final harvest comes and heaven draws me near, I'll thank the Lord forever for the red tractor years. The evening settles softly across the fields tonight. The old tractor rests in silence beneath the fading light. And somewhere in the memories, where time cannot interfere, we're still riding through the pasture in the red tractor years.
Hayloft sits above me, just the way it always stood, filled with dust and summer sunlight and the smell of aged wood. Most folks only saw a barn loft stacked with hay from wall to wall, but to me it held 1,000 dreams and memories most of all. Because that's where we spent evenings when the chores were finally through, hidden from the busy world, just me and you. A violin would often echo through the rafters overhead, played by old Mr. Carter from the farm just up ahead. The music drifted through the valley like a gentle evening prayer, and somehow every note he played made the whole world disappear. You'd lean against the hay bales with the moonlight in your eyes, and I'd wonder how I got so lucky beneath those country skies. Violin in the hayloft, playing soft and low. Violin in the hayloft, like a river's gentle flow. Every note still carries a love so warm and true. That old violin in the hayloft talk about tomorrow and the life we'd someday build. A little house beside the pasture and dreams we'd see fulfilled. You wanted roses by the porch and children running free. I wanted nothing more in life than you beside me. Back then forever felt so simple, just a road we planned to walk, and every promise felt certain in those late night talks. The years gave us exactly what we hoped those nights would bring. A home filled full of laughter and every precious thing. The children grew up quickly, the farm carried us along, and somehow through the hardest days, love kept us strong. Yet every now and then I'd climb back to that hayloft high and remember two young dreamers beneath the summer sky. Violin in the hayloft, playing soft and low. Violin in the hayloft, like a river's gentle flow. Every note still carries a love so warm and true. That old violin in the hayloft still reminds me of you. Now the barn is much quieter than it was back in those days. The hayloft gathers silence where music used to play. But sometimes when the evening falls and shadows fill the beams, I swear I hear that violin returning through my dreams. And suddenly I'm young again, with your hand inside of mine, listening to that fiddle sing as the stars begin to shine. Some places hold a heartbeat long after people leave. Some songs hold a memory long after we grieve. And some loves become forever without ever growing old, living in the stories that the years continue to hold. Violin in the hayloft still echoes through my soul. Violin in the hayloft, more precious now than gold. And when my final evening comes and I leave this world behind, may I hear that fiddle playing one more time. The moon shines through the rafters, the old barn settles slow, and somewhere in the distance that violin still flows, carrying all our yesterdays through every passing year. The violin in the hayloft still sounds crystal clear. The church bell rang at 10 o'clock across the countryside, and families filled the little white church, standing side by side. The preacher spoke of faith and grace, the choir sang along, and somehow every troubled heart felt a little strong. But everybody knew the best part was still a little ways away, back at Mama's farmhouse table at the end of Sunday day. The smell of chicken and cornbread drifted through the air. Grandma's pie was cooling slowly by the kitchen window there. The cousins filled the front yard, running wild and free, while old folks gathered on the porch talking family history. Every chair around that table held a story of its own, and every laugh reminded us how blessed we'd truly grown. Sunday dinner after church, gathered around as one. Sunday dinner after church, the highlight of the week was done. With grateful hearts and open arms and love in every word, life felt a little sweeter at Sunday dinner after church. Daddy carved the roast beef with his weathered farmer hands. Mama smiled across the table, watching all her little clan. Stories passed like biscuits from one side to the next. Some were true and some were stretched just a little bit at best. The children rolled their eyes at tales they'd heard before, yet somehow every Sunday they asked to hear them more. The years moved like a river, and the family changed with time. New babies joined the circle, while others crossed the line. Some chairs became empty as heaven called them home, but their spirits stayed among us every time we gathered close. Because love leaves fingerprints upon the hearts it knows, and every family meal helps those memories grow. Sunday dinner after church, gathered around as one. Sunday dinner after church, the highlight of the week was done. With grateful hearts and open arms and love in every word, life felt a little sweeter at Sunday dinner after church. Now the house sits quieter than it did so long ago. The children have their families and their own places to go. But every Sunday afternoon, when sunlight fills the room, I can almost hear the laughter and smell Mama's perfume. The table still stands proudly, though many years have passed, holding all those precious moments, too beautiful to last. The world may change around us, and seasons come and go, but family is a blessing that grows more precious as we grow. Not because it's perfect or free from pain and tears, but because it walks beside us through all our changing years. Sunday dinner after church still lives inside my heart. Sunday dinner after church, though we're many miles apart. And when I reach heaven someday and see those faces first, I hope they're saving me a place for Sunday dinner after church. The church bell echoes softly across the fields once more, and somewhere beyond the sunset
Loved ones wait beyond the door. Gather round a table just like the days of old, for Sunday dinner after church. Never growing old. The autumn wind was blowing across the fields of gold. Another harvest season for two hearts growing old. The tractor moved a little slower than it had years before, but side by side we carried on like we'd always done before. The sun hung low above the valley, casting amber through the sky, and somehow every mile that day felt precious passing by. You stood beside the wagon, counting bundles one by one, smiling through the afternoon beneath the fading sun. Years had left their silver on your gentle hair, yet somehow you seem more beautiful than any time before. We talked about the children and the lives they'd build away, never knowing destiny was listening that day. The last harvest together, though we didn't know it then. The last harvest together before life changed again. Working side by side beneath the autumn sky. The last harvest together of you and I. Were nearly finished as evening settled in. The old barn stood watching like an old and trusted friend. We sat upon the tailgate looking out across the land, watching golden sunlight slip softly through our hands. You rested on my shoulder like you had 1,000 times. For a little while the world felt perfectly aligned. That winter came much sooner than either of us planned. A sickness stole your strength away like grains through open hands. The farmhouse grew much quieter, the days a little long, and every room seemed emptier after you were gone. Yet every autumn brings me back to that final harvest day, the last time we worked together before heaven called you away. The last harvest together, though we didn't know it then. The last harvest together before life changed again. Working side by side beneath the autumn sky. The last harvest together of you and I. Now the grandchildren help me when the harvest season starts, and I see pieces of you living in their hearts. Your kindness fills their laughter, your spirit lights their eyes, and And somehow through the generations, your love survives. The fields still need tending, the seasons still arrive, but every autumn teaches me that love remains alive. Some moments seem ordinary until they're far behind. Then they become treasures that time cannot unwind. If I'd known that day was special, I might have held you longer. Yet perhaps its beauty lies because we never saw it coming. The last stars together still shines inside my soul. The last stars together, more precious now than gold. And when my final harvest comes and heaven calls me through, I'll walk across those golden fields and find my way to you. The sunset paints the pasture, the barn stands proud and still, and every autumn whispers across the distant hill of one perfect season forever shining through. The last harvest together, me and you.
This morning I walked the pasture just after break of day. The dew still resting softly where the cattle used to lay. The old dirt road was quiet, the fields were calm and still, and every step I took carried me beyond the hill. That's when I saw the footprints press lightly in the dust, and suddenly I found myself remembering all of us. There were little tracks from children running barefoot through the year, chasing dreams and fireflies without a single fear. I could almost hear their laughter rising through the summer air as they raced toward the old barn without a single care. Time has carried them onward to lives of their own design, yet those footprints still remain inside this heart of mine. Footprints in the dust tell stories without words. Footprints in the dust of moments still preserved. The wind may sweep the road away and seasons turn to rust, but love leaves lasting memories like footprints in the dust.
found tracks beside the garden where my father used to stand, teaching me about the seasons with weathered working hands. He never spoke of greatness or riches to be won. He simply showed me how to live and how honest work gets done. Now every row of corn I plant and every seed I sow still carries pieces of the man who taught me all I know. Then I thought about my darling walking through these fields with me, picking wildflowers by the fence beneath the maple tree. Her footprints crossed the pasture for more years than I can count, and every path she walked upon still feels sacred somehow. Though heaven called her home and took her far from sight, her footprints still guide me through the darkest night. Footprints in the dust tell stories without words. Footprints in the dust of moments still preserved. The wind may sweep the road away and seasons turn to rust, but love leaves lasting memories like footprints in the dust. Now the grandchildren visit and leave their tracks behind, running through the same old fields where once I spent my time. Life keeps moving forward the way it always must. One generation follows another, leaving footprints in the dust. And maybe that's the purpose of every life we live, to leave behind a little love for someone else to give. We all become memories sooner than we'd like. A photograph, a favorite song, a familiar country night. But the kindness that we offer and the love we leave behind become the footprints that remain long after we're gone from sight. Footprints in the dust still led me through the years. Footprints in the dust, through laughter and through tears. And when my journey reaches the place where all roads end, I'll follow those old footprints back to the ones I loved again. The sun climbs higher slowly across the fields I trust, and everywhere I look I see a lifetime of footprints still. The evening sun is falling across the fields once more, and golden light comes pouring through the old barn doors. The paint has faded slowly, the boards have grown old too, yet every nail and timber still reminds me of you. So many years of travel across this patch of land, yet the barn still stands here proudly, like it somehow understands. It remembers every harvest, every wedding dance and song, every child that ran through laughter before the years moved on. It remembers family gatherings and Sunday afternoon, the banjo and the fiddle playing underneath the moon. If old barns could tell stories, this one would never end, because every memory resting here still feels alive again. When the barn doors open again, the years all fade away. When the barn doors open again, yesterday feels like today. I see every face I ever loved standing in the evening sun. When the barn doors open again, we're all together as one. I can almost hear my father calling from the field, teaching me that honest labor was life's greatest shield. I can hear my mother's laughter floating through the air, and see my children running without a single care. The old barn keeps them safely inside its wooden frame, as if time itself decided to remember every name. And there beside the doorway stands the love of all my years, with silver in her hair now and kindness in her tears. She smiles the way she always did when I'd come home at night, and suddenly the whole world feels warm and bright. Somewhere deep inside me I know this can't be real, yet somehow it feels truer than anything I feel. When the barn doors open again, the years all fade away. When the barn doors open again, yesterday feels like today. I see every face I ever loved standing in the evening sun. When the barn doors open again, we're all together as one. The stars begin appearing above the pasture land. And the old barn stands in silence like a faithful aging friend. I've spent a lifetime walking these fields beneath the sky, learning that the hardest thing is never the goodbye. The hardest thing is realizing how quickly blessings pass, yet somehow they remain forever inside the heart at last. Maybe heaven isn't distant, maybe it starts right here, in every cherished memory we hold so dear. In every laugh remembered, in every song we've sung, in every story carried forward by daughters and by sons. Because love never disappears, it simply changes form, living on through generations like wheat after the storm. When the barn doors open again and my final day is done, when the barn doors open again, I'll walk toward the setting sun. And every soul I've ever loved will be waiting there for me, beyond the fields and fences, beyond eternity. When the barn doors open again, no one will be alone. We'll gather for one final evening and finally come home. The sunset fades to starlight, the valley grows still and deep. The old barn guards its memories as the countryside falls asleep. And somewhere beyond tomorrow, beyond the years of pain, I believe we'll meet again when the barn